She's really testing me. I mean, really testing me. She will call me by all of Matthew's ex-girlfriend's names.
Matthew McConaughey's wife, Camila Alves McConaughey, is getting candid about the beginning of her relationship with her mother-in-law. On Tuesday, the 41-year-old model stopped by Southern Living's Biscuits and Jam podcast and opened up about how she and Matthew's mom, Kay, didn't start off on the best foot.
You know, speaking of people taking care of each other, I want to ask you about your mother-in-law, Kay, who y'all call Mom Mac. Is that right?
Mom Mac, yes.
And how instrumental was she in helping introduce you to the culture and helping you get on board with being a Texan?
That's a good question. I think this idea of just shoot straight, it is what it is, and let's handle it. Let's handle it. Let's get it done. She has a lot of that in her, you know, and that pride as well.
She's a tough customer.
She's great. I'll tell you a funny story of Mama. She did all these things when I first came in the picture, right? And she's really testing me. I mean, really testing me. She will call me by all of Matthew's ex-girlfriend's names. She would start speaking Spanish with me in a very broken way, kind of putting down a bit. I mean, all kinds of stuff.
But then Camila shared the moment their relationship forever changed on a trip in Istanbul.
And I got a job to go to Istanbul to go do a fashion show there. And that job comes with the perks of you get another first-class ticket, you get another nice hotel room, you get this, you get your driver. I was like, Mom Mac, you gonna come with me? The whole way there, the whole plane ride to Istanbul, she was telling me all the stories and putting all these things in my head. Enough that when we landed, I was like, okay, all right, let me buckle up. Let me get ready for this situation. And then about day 3, I was taking her to her room, and she got into this whole other thing that it's not my place to share. And she starts crying. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, Mom Mag, feeling so sorry. And as I put her to bed, I look at her and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's full of So I just flip it on her and brought my spicy Brazilian Latin side, and I let her have it. So I went back at her, and we had it back and forth, back and forth. And then at the end, she just looked at me. She was like, okay, now you're in.
You passed the test.
All she wanted was for me to fight back. And then from that day on, that night on, we have the most amazing relationship, and I have so much respect for her. She has so much respect for me. I mean, it can get tricky sometimes, you know, but we always end with a good laugh and a joke.
Things definitely turned out for the best, as Matthew and Camila have been married since 2012 and now share 3 children together. Access Hollywood's Kid Hoover chatted with the Dallas Buyers Club actor in October 2020, following the release of his memoir, Green Lights. And he reminisced on his and Camila's love story from the first time they met to how she won over his mom.
Your wife, Camila, posted the most beautiful tribute when your book went to #1. What did that mean to you?
I just saw that. Someone sent that to me. I did not even know she'd put that out. And it was very cool to read that. One, to read the facts of what she put up there. But also just reminded me of, she was the first person I thanked when I found out that the book had done so well and opened up at #1, because I couldn't have done it without her. She, from the initial pushing me out the door and helped me give me the courage to say, get out of here. You've been threatening to write a book for a while. I see it eating at you. Get out of here. Do not come back until you've got something. And then to tell me when I would be away for 2 weeks and feeling like, oh, I think I need to get back. She was like, we got it. We're good. If you're still in the zone writing, do not come back. Stay there. So she was an incredible amount of support. And then I would share with her different drafts as I came back. And she's always been a very honest critic of the work I do. And she helped me out a lot.
Your love story with her, I loved reading those chapters. Take me back to the moment you spotted her. She floated on air.
In my eyes, she sure did. If we went back and did the math, she actually was walking on the floor. But as far as I could tell, her head was not bobbing. She was just sliding across the room. I was out holding court at a table, making some margaritas, and this figure about 20 feet in front of me moved from my right to left. And there were these caramel-colored shoulders and this sort of turquoise very thin, loose-fitting, beautiful dress on. And I remember I leaned forward without even thinking about it, and I said, "What is that?" I didn't say, "Who is that?" I said, "What is that?" She went and sat down. I started to kind of try to get her attention to call her over from the room. And as I was doing that, I heard my mother in my ear saying, "Boy, get your butt up. This ain't the kind of woman you wave across the room." And I said, "Yes, ma'am." I got up. Mind you, my mom wasn't physically there, but that's what I heard in my ear. I introduced myself to Camila. I invited her and her friends over, which I think was a good move, because I think if I would have just invited her over and not her friends, she would have probably said no. But because I invited her and her friends over, she then came over alone. Ding, green light.
Well played.
And then she sat down, and I understood Portuguese and spoke better Spanish that night than I ever have since. And that got me in the door. And I asked her out to go out the next night. She couldn't, for the most beautiful reason. It was her father's birthday. Non-negotiable. Beautiful. And finally, I did get her to go out with me, and we've been going out ever since.
But the night you kind of conned her to stay over. She slept in the separate bedroom. My favorite part is you went down twice. Do you ever think about doubling back for a third time? Third time's the charm, my friend.
No, I finally got tired. And the second time she kicked me out of that room, I could tell she more than meant it. I was like, I'm not gonna test that again. If I go back the third time, I may get injured.
I love you said there was a moment you saw her in the kitchen with your friends, and it was sort of an aha moment. Do you remember the moment you knew that she had to be the mother of your children and your wife?
It was probably about 2 years after that, and we had been dating, and it had been going really well. And she had come out to the set on location with me in Australia on a film, Fool's Gold. And I'd never brought anyone, male or female friends with me. None even visited. When I go to work, I'm like there in my trailer or where I'm renting my house, and that's all I do. I go to work, come home, and do it all over again. And I really like my solitude. Well, I wanted her to come out with me, and she did. We had taken a long weekend vacation to a little surf retreat in Papua New Guinea, where we were living in staying in this little tree house in the middle of the jungle. It was beautiful. And about 5 o'clock, watching the sun go down over the Solomon Sea one night, like day 5, I was really feeling like I would really fall in love with her. And this is the woman I want to spend the rest of my time with. And I would love for her to be the mother of children we can create. And I asked her very nervously, she was sitting to the right of me, and I said, "What would I have to do to lose you?" And she was so cool about it. I remember she had our first cocktail she had in her hand that day. And she had her hand, and as I asked her, "What would I have to do to lose you?" Her hand was on her way to her mouth. She didn't pause. She took a sip, swallowed it, set the glass down on the exact water ring that it had left on the arm of the wooden chair she was sitting in. She looked out, and really composed, she goes, "Oh, that's easy." And then looked over at me and said, "Change." Oh, I crumpled. I was like, "Please, amen, all aboard, I'm in, let's go." And that's when I really was like, this is the one.
Did she always get along with your mom, Kay? Was that instant too?
No, that wasn't instant. My mom is very, very persistent about initiating any woman into any of her sons' lives. She did it with my 2 older brothers, and she did it with Camila too. She would do it by, mispronouncing her name, calling her by different names at certain times, just to test her. And mom would, and then you'd call her on it and go, "Mom," and she'd be like, "Oh, what? Oh, I didn't notice I did that." Oh, yes, you did notice you did that. So she tested Camila, but Camila did the great thing that my mom was really looking for. She bucked up to her, and they went off on a trip together one time. I think it was to Turkey, solo, just the 2 of them together for like a week. And boy, they got back from that trip, and my mom had full respect for Camila and full blessing.